Italy in the States, but not only in the States, all over the world, is still the machine land. We are making, and surprising not for me, maybe not for you, but for many other people, is the country of the robotics.
What I wanted to ask you as well is about the funding. One thing is to have a clear strategy, but what do you tell the company wanting to enter and scale in the US in terms of funding? I mean, I look at the advertising spend of an average American company is huge in comparison. I pulled out a couple of numbers. In the US, about $190 billion is spent on marketing spend, launching a product, which is about 32% of the overall turnover in general of a company. Compare that to Germany, that's only 5%. So what do you say to anybody wanting to set up shop in the US? How much funding, how much time period they have to account for that they have the liquidity to establish the brand?
The difference between an Italian company and a German or other companies is that the Italian company has in mind certain targets, objectives of market. So for natural reasons, they don't have the idea of conquering, the market from the Atlantic to the Pacific. They are aware of the fact that they cannot cope with a huge demand that could come from the market. They, of course, at the same time, they do not have the money that usually a German or a French or a British company have at their disposal. So what they have to do is that to secure, first of all, the good lecture that they can have of the market. They have to read the market, they have to be able. And then I think the formula is to come out with a business model where the local partner is very important, because it's through the local partner that they can also get the right size for any kind of communication for the market. My idea is that as far as the Italian companies is concerned, since they are not going to look for a national brand, a brand that is becoming nationally known in the States, I think the step-by-step strategy is the one that they should adopt. Yeah. And in this sense, I say, okay, landing pad in New York. Then from there, with your partner, you have to decide if you have to go north, if you have to go west, if you have to go south. Maybe you can go in multiple directions. But due to the nature of the structure of the Italian companies, I think what is important is to consolidate positions after positions, and not looking at the possibility that your product is becoming, caught by a fever of the consumers and everybody is going to look for. And really it can happen, but this is not, I think, within the nature of the Italian companies.
Plus as well, I think it depends also very much on your product, Antonino. One thing is fashion, the other one is food. But if I look at the United States, what they actually import most from Italy, if my data is right, and you are the expert there, Antonino, is actually machinery, nuclear reactors and boilers is the first export product, followed by pharmaceuticals, then vehicles and other railway and tramway mechanics, and only then is beverages, and food is even not on the top 10 list. Footwear and leatherware is number 9, which is, of course, if we think about Italy, we think about fantastic fashion and food, but I thought it was very important to mention that it's not the top sectors being exported to the US, and depending on the product, the communication mix, the location mix changes very much as well. Okay, let's move on a little bit, because I would like to talk about trade in general, Antonino, and your experience in China is huge. Now you have started the experience globally anyway, but in the US as well. And consumer activism, as well as in another step, trade being used in political terms or trade diplomacy. Let us start with consumer activism to make it a bit more specific. In China, we had a couple of cases. couple of blunders by Italian companies. One was Dolce & Gabbana, not too long ago, where they launched just before their big launch, also in terms of the fashion show, and they had this ad where a Chinese lady was trying to eat a piece of pizza with chopsticks and didn't really manage very much. And I don't know what the details were of it, but it caused a huge outcry, so far so that they had to apologize to China because they felt offended. It didn't respect their one China policy to put an advert out like that. That was one thing. The other one was Versace's T-shirt. I don't know whether you remember, where they had lots of countries listed, and Macau and Hong Kong and China as 3 different countries. Again, something that was not necessarily viewed very kindly upon by the Chinese authorities, again, going against the one China policy. I mean, that's huge. Is consumer activism, the backlash then these companies had, is that something you tell and educate Italian companies about as well? About the deep values of the consumer locally?
Well, we are trying to do, but give me 3 seconds to go back to the machine, export of Italy to the States. I think this is your question, and your considerations are very, very interesting, very important. Because contrary to the general opinion, the people think that Italy is fashion, furniture, food, and so and so. As a matter of fact, Italy in the States means technology, medium, high technology. Italy is still in the States the country that makes machinery to make machinery and goods. And as a matter of fact, you mentioned some of the sectors that are still very, very important. But I think that, for instance, we are registering now a very important positioning and expansion of the packaging. Packaging is going to be, very much crucial in the future, because if we know that goods must be protected, handled in a different way, Italy is the country of the technology of the packaging. And we have been developing not only the machinery, but also materials to protect food and to protect goods and whatever. So this is important to focus on the fact and to stress the fact that Italy in the States, but not only in the States, all over the world, is still the machine land. We are making, and surprising not for me, maybe not for you, but for many other people, is the country of the robotics. We have a concentration of production of robotics in many areas in Italy, and we don't have to ignore that what is the Via Emilia, which means is the old, communication way that is connecting all Emilia-Romagna, is called the mechatronic area, is the area where, for instance, we have to focus once again, are concentrated the manufacturing activities of Ferrari, Lamborghini, Ducati, Maserati. So this is unique in the world. This is something that also we have to continue to let the people know. And in fact, we have a project that is called Machines Italia, that is centered on the office of Chicago, that during more than, I think, than 20 years has been focusing on this fact. Italy is machine land, is the country of the machines. And that's, I think, thank you for this question and putting the stress on this kind of aspects. As far as the education of the Italian companies to be sensitive and able to understand, this, of course, is something that we are doing, because particularly for small companies, it's very important that they know not only the custom regulations, not only any kind of technical, aspects of labeling the products. I think it's important, and we do it during at the occasion of the training activities that we are doing in Italy. Before coming here, I was in the director of the marketing division, which is also in charge of the education and training of the Italian companies for international markets. Through the fact that we are hiring experts, we try to focus on this kind of problems, the cultural gap that sometimes could exist between the Italian company and the local market. Of course, sometimes there are markets that they are oversensitive about some issues. Sometimes some issues are, made bigger, inflated for political reasons. But there is no doubt that there is a globalization of the market, but every single market is still presenting certain kind of sensitive issues that Italians have to consider. For instance, one of the first important issues that the Italian companies solved many years ago was the lining of the shoes. For many years, the lining of the shoes was made with a pork hide, which was very flexible and ideal to make the lining. But as you know, some of these products cannot be sold in some markets that are sensitive to this kind of product. So the Italians were able to adjust. At the beginning, it came as a surprise. They said, but we have done this for centuries because this kind of material is flexible, is a stretch, and so on and so on. So after that, they started, it seems a very, very irrelevant solution, but that was a solution that opened the market. And as a matter of fact, now we have people that are coming from these countries and they buy the top of the brand made in Italy because they know that Italian companies have adjusted since long time to this necessity. So the market is globalized, but still there are some local issues that the Italian companies have to understand.
And interesting also that, of course, certain markets are developing, because if I think back what the Chinese consumer would be looking for, and that is in an uneducated mind about this kind of issue, is a lot of brands. And as long as the brand is right, Chinese tend to love it. But it's not true at all, at least anymore. And I just wanted to mention this quote to you, Antonino, and being a China expert when it comes to trade as well, I'll get your comment. Here, Glyn Atwell, an associate professor and co-author of Luxury Brands in China and India, he co-wrote this book. He says, consumers are searching for a deeper relationship with a brand versus to a superficial meaning that is only logo driven. It's the luxury brand story that connects the brand with the consumer. So even these evolving markets, the evolving consumers are also starting to evolve the kind of value they put in the product they are buying. It's not about bling bling anymore, but behind the bling, there needs to be something a lot more sustainable.
I would say this, I had the experience, after many years living in Asia, I had the experience of seeing just the birth of the Korean market. Then I moved to Malaysia, then Japan, Taiwan, and China at the end. I think that the obsession for brands is at the infant stage of the market. Brand as a name. So the people are attracted by the visible brand, not by the inner qualities of the brand. As a matter of fact, at the beginning, the companies were putting huge labels. And because that was the obsession to satisfy, and that's why some famous products or products of great success in other markets, they were not successful in China because the brand was not visible.
Yes.
So it was not a sign of distinction. You cannot show, to the competitive lady that was buying against you to show that she was.
Zegna here on the outside and the label on the suit would stay there.
Basically, the label should be, the idea was that label was important at the beginning, but then it should be removed and fixed at the internal side. But the people, they didn't remove because they were showing.
So ridiculous.
When the market develops, it's true, it becomes a market for quality. And as you can see, the brands have been adjusting, adopting the approach that was necessary. So the brand started showing that there was not only a brand easy to mention, to pronounce, but the brand was something that was the avant-garde, the one that you could see, if you want, the phenomenon, what was possible to see of the inner quality. So leather and products and the tissues and fabrics, everything became more important. As a matter of fact, today, there are a lot of buyers of quality that they are going to check what is the product made of.
Yes.
So they look inside, they see, is this linen or is polyester? Yeah. Is this cashmere or is nylon? Is this the leather or is man-made material? So this is, I think, now the new trend. Infant stage brand. When there is the evolution, the maturity, the people are looking for the brand. But the brand that is succeeding is the brand that is able to prove that is using the best fabrics, the best leather, the best products, the best wood. And one new trend, one new factor is green. So there is no more only the search for the quality product, but also for whatever is green. If you can prove that your cashmere is a green cashmere because in the process you have not wasted water, if you can prove that in the best leather, the softest leather has been processed by limiting, the pollution of the land that is surrounding your factory, then this is going to be an additional factor of success. So the brand, yes, but with a new evolution within the brand.
It is true that the more mature markets are looking more and more into the quality, not only of the product, but the supply chain of that product, of the entire ecosystem, all the stakeholders involved in making that product that one buys then in the shop. Let's get back though, Antonino, to consumer activism. Is consumer activism, and also supported by the digital potential viral spread of any kind of boycott against a company, against a brand, is it a real threat these days?
Well, it's a challenge. It's an incredible challenge for any kind of company. Can be a big company, can be a small company. I think what is much more, interesting is the fact that a small company can cope with this kind of, let's say, transparent, need of transparency of the customers. I think in a better way, because they don't have to fix, the rules of a big corporation, what should be shown to the customers. A factor is there. As a matter of fact, in the last decade, what we have done as a trade agency, we have made easier and possible, more and more compared to the past, the visit of the foreign buyers, American buyers, not only to the Italian fairs, but also to the factories. Because we want them to be sure and to be aware of the fact that what we are showing at MICAM or we are showing at PT is the expression of a way of manufacturing that is still with Italian roots. The sourcing, of the goods is going to be very important in the future. Supply chain are going to be important because the buyers, I think, are going to rely more on products where the supply chain is very short, is very clear. We have the manufacturer, then we have the distributor, and then we have the market. In this sense, we envisage the possibility that Italian companies are going to have a plus on their favor, because, as I said, if you visit MICAM and then the day after MICAM, you can visit the factory in the Italian shoe district in Marche, in Naples, in the area surrounding Venice, so in Tuscany, you will see what is to be seen, but is important for somebody that wants to communicate the product in the proper way. Because he has seen with his eyes that the company is working in this factory of this size and with all the social issues that have been respected. And this is a plus. This is the competitive advantage of the future. Yes. In the past, it was a matter of price. For Italian companies, no more a matter of price.
Price, quality,
so we are, if you want, fit for the new season, for the new scenario. Of course, it's not easy. It's a challenge. But all things considered, I think we can once again face the problem and maybe come out in a better and stronger position.
Yeah. And when it comes to what I alluded to before, call it trade war, call it trade diplomacy, call it what we're seeing a lot these days, sanctioning of different markets. Does that work? I don't want you to get political, Antonino, but you being, from the Trade Commission, having worked with them for so many years, in your experience, is that really something that shifts the needle on a political level if you go and hurt the commerce and the economy?
But without, as you said, being political, I think that the consideration on this kind of tariff war, custom war, and so I insist on this aspect. If it is a temporary measure that sometimes should be adopted in order to protect certain sectors. In the past, the doctrine was telling us it's at the infant stage, it's normal that you have to protect your sector because otherwise your competition is not going to be enough to stop the products coming into your country. And so I can see a temporary adoption of this kind of measures. But at the end, if today is a society of the consumers, of the customers, we are going, or the people, the country that are adopting these measures, I think they are going to make some, problems to their own customers because they are not offering the customers the chance, the possibility to choose the best suitable product for a certain lifestyle. In addition, we must consider that sometimes the import of product is not only generating, occupation and job in a small quantity. Sometimes the import of a certain product is generating a number of jobs that can be sometimes, in terms of number, more than the one generated by a local production, that being unable to expand is going to remain at the infant stage. So it's not going to grow. On the contrary, if you import a certain quantity of product from abroad, then you are going to set up, for sometimes is, let's say, a logistics center, and then you have people that are working there. Then you have the repackaging center because you have to make the packaging. For instance, in some case, Italian food, they have this important, and cheese, for instance, they import the big, pieces of cheese, and then they have to make the portions for the distribution. And prosciutto, ham is the same, and clothes is the same because they have to made in a very separate packaging, very attractive packaging. So there is a generation of job that sometimes is ignored by the people or they want to ignore on purpose by the people that they have adopted the tariffs.
Yeah. Antonino, to wrap up our conversation, this is a question I asked all of my guests here on Mentoring TV. What would you say are the 3 key learnings, perhaps you have more, you pass on to the Italian companies when they are planning to scale out of Italy, wherever on the globe? If you had to put it really in 3 short, snap aspects, what would you say?
Well, I think they have to know their own product. The first thing is that they have to be aware of what is the product that they have been able to manufacture. Because sometimes the people are enthusiastic about the product, but this means that they are not aware of the limit of the potential. This applies into 2 directions. Sometimes they are not aware of the big potential. Sometimes they are overestimating, the product that they have made. This is, I think, is very important. So a very strong consideration, realistic consideration about the product. And from there, it comes the evaluation of the markets, which means that not all the markets are suitable, ideal for your product. And once you have identified the market, you have to find out, since you are not a big multinational, a big corporation, you have to come out with this formula that I say is, let's say, a business model that is based on partnership. Since you cannot count on a big finance, you cannot count on a big support on your own. I think it's important that you have to go for what has been proving the most successful model for the Italian companies, to find out a partner, and with this partner to define the strategy for the market that is going to be different from Europe to the States and to Asia. And that's why you need somebody that is going to help you to give an interpretation, help you to read the potential of the market. With these 3 steps, you can be sure that you are not wasting time, you're not wasting money, and at the time being, you can speed up, or at the time being, you can withdraw from the market without having big consequences for the health of your company.
Excellent. Antonino, thank you so much for all your insights. And thank you very much for taking the time to be with us here on Mentoring TV.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to elaborate a little bit about Italian trade agency strategy in the States and generic or general, if you want, consideration about the world trade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, dear Mentoring TV community, for having joined us here together with Antonino Laspina. He's the Italian Trade Commissioner to the US, and we wish him all the luck and all the success for his personal job development and also for all the companies, Italian companies, entering and expanding the US markets. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.